Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with Idaho Dispatch, and I am joined today by Nicole Hyland. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
Good, and I'm glad to sit down and, this is the first time Caldwell's had a new mayor in over 2 decades,
Yeah.
a really long time, and so we've reached out to all the candidates to try and sit down and that way voters can know you a little bit better, know about where you stand
Sure.
and that kind of stuff. So with that, can you talk about, what made you go, okay, you know what, I'm gonna run for mayor, and actually, in addition to that, were you planning on running against Mayor Nancolas, or when he announced that it was an open race, you were like, hey, I'll throw my hat in the ring?
Um. So to answer about running against Nancolas, no, I would have if he would have ran again. It probably would have been okay with that. Would not have probably decided to run. It's really hard to run against an incumbent, is what everyone tells me, and it's true. But I would say the reason I really wanted to run was just because I wanted to keep the city going in the good direction that it is. Nancolas has done a great job, and but we also have to remember that with that great job that he's done, it's also been our taxpayers funding that great job. Um, Property taxes have gone up and stuff like that. So it was just more of a concerned citizen. Hey, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I thought, my job ended this year, customer service admin assistant, and I thought, the office had closed. So I thought, this is a perfect opportunity. And I talked with my husband and said, this is probably something that I could probably do, just to show our kids that we could make a difference. We don't always have to be in the political sphere to jump in the race and do something. And I always tell my kids, always be the solution to the problem. Don't be the problem. And not necessarily just be it, but find the solution, be the solution, always try to help where you can. So I just thought that was great. I didn't, at the time that I did decide to run, I did not look at anybody who was running, didn't hear of anything. I really don't follow John McGee all that much. And so I didn't really know that he was even running, to be honest. And when I jumped, I thought, oh, this is going to be cool. This is going to be awesome. And then I was the first person to put my, the first person to put the application for candidacy in. And for a week, I kept telling my husband, I was like, I think I'm going to be the only candidate because nobody had put anything else in. And I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to run. This is unbelievable. And so for a minute, though, a couple days, I was like, we might just end up just not having somebody run. And then the last 2 days of the open application process, everyone flew in there. All the candidates for city council, everyone started flooding the website with their applications, and I was like, oh, okay, now we have a race, let's go. So so to answer your question, I was just running just to show my kids that, hey, we can be a part of this too, we can do this, we can make a difference. So, but really just to keep the city going forward, because we really love how Caldwell has grown into more of a big community, not big as in growth, but just a big community, family friendly thing versus what it had before. As everyone knows, Caldwell was pretty desolate at one time, so this is great change. So.
Okay, so how long have you been living in Caldwell?
So this time I've been living in Caldwell for about, let's see, so 2022 will be 4 years.
Okay.
So just a little over 3.5 years. And then the first time I lived in Caldwell, I lived here for 3 years, then moved to Nampa for a while, and then we moved back. So
Okay.
so a total of I think 7.5 years in Caldwell, but really in the area. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you'd mentioned that you liked a lot of how the city was moving with Mayor Nancolas currently. So if you become mayor, what are some of the things that I guess let's start with the things that you like that Caldwell is doing currently that you would keep going and want to keep going?
I think it's important to first understand. I get questions a lot about what are you going to do, and people really have to realize that the mayor is just a figurehead. Really, it's the city council who make a lot of the decisions. The mayor really only makes tied decisions. So if there's a tied vote between the council members, that's when the mayor comes in and says, "Oh, yeah" or "no." But a lot of the other things that the mayor's duties are, yes, they have to do a lot of. With Mayor Nancolas right now, he does press briefings and things with the Youth Advisory Council, and he's out there. He's in the community probably a little more than any other mayor. And so I would say, to answer your question, I would say that the good things are with Caldwell growing in my mind, the right direction is keeping that and keeping our kids active, keeping our seniors active, keeping our families active in a positive way. So keeping crime low, keeping the positive energy up, and then really just keeping the community awareness up as well, because as long as we have community awareness, in my mind, it's not 100%, but in my mind, a lot of times that deters crime. So there's that. Some of the negative things that Caldwell has is that I believe we don't have a large enough downtown. Not saying that we need to expand as big as Boise's downtown or even Nampa's downtown. I mean, Nampa's still pretty small, but it's growing. But we need to just expand the downtown and just make it so that shops can come in, businesses can come in, and feel like they're a part of that downtown feel. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Another thing is that I didn't really appreciate was from Mayor Nancolas was that his salary kept rising, and nobody else's salary was rising, especially you can only increase your wages during election years. And so I will be very honest, I think it's around 95,000. He's the third highest paid mayor in the Treasure Valley. And I really don't think you should be making 2.5 times more than your people that are actually here that travel to Boise and make maybe 30,000, maybe 29,000, but they're still, it's a little skewed. So I didn't really like that factor either. And but with the city and stuff there, I don't like the fact that our police force and our fire force are underfunded and understaffed. So that's something that as a mayor, I think I would be pushing. In fact, I know I'd be pushing the city council. We need to get these resolutions. We need to get these things done because that is important. We want to protect those who protect us. So that's really one of my big things. Above all is that our police force and our fire are underfunded, understaffed.
Okay. So. Okay. How do you deal with the growth the Treasure Valley has exploded. Idaho saw almost a 20% increase in population over the last census that came out. And so, as it gets more expensive in Boise, which it is, the median price home, I think, was over $500,000. Mm-hmm. People start looking outward, right, to get out of Boise, to get out of Meridian, to get out of Eagle, all these other places that are more expensive, and they look to Caldwell, and they look to, Middleton, and maybe they're getting all the way out to Parma and Fruitland, I don't know. But they keep, moving out further. How are you going to deal with that influx of people as a mayor, or is there anything you can do?
So our city council right now, a lot of times they're pushing with the growth. First of all, they are pushing growth, but they're pushing growth in my opinion, the wrong way. And I say the wrong way is when you have city council that is, when you have a city council that is pro-growth but not pro-plan of how to deal with that growth, there's a problem. And the reason I say that is because any city council meeting I've gone to in the last year and a half, everything's like, we're growing. They they don't know, they seem like they don't know what they're doing. So we're going to throw money at this expensive short-term plan that's not doing anyone any good. And then they're not thinking long-term. So what I want to do is think long-term, think supply and demand for housing, think supply and demand. You know, I don't want, they're right now pushing apartments, multifamily complexes, apartments. I mean, that's their agenda, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm sitting over here going, we need sustainable and attainable homes that are truly affordable, not affordable because it's an apartment, not affordable because it's a triplex or something like that. I'm okay if the citizens are okay with duplexes because they can be molded into looking like homes, like actual plats. But the multiplexes are a problem, and the way that they have right now at the city council is like, let's put one up on every corner, is how I feel. And they have a lot of units coming in right now that they've already approved. December 1st, they're going to see a lot of groundbreaking stuff. Like, we already see it now, but for the multiplexes, they've already got a lot that are planned, especially out this direction. So I don't think that those are the answers. And sure, not everyone's going to be able to afford to buy a home, but statistic shows that in 10 to 15 years, I think Caldwell is going to be 70% an elderly community. So why won't we capitalize on having the homes where the elderly can actually, well, first of all, afford, but really just maintain. I mean, they can afford it, but really just maintain that atmosphere of an elderly community. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that we have slow growth to just the elderly, because that's not what I'm saying. But we really, if we capitalize on that group, I think we would be okay with, I truly think we would be okay with the growth growing towards that demographic, I guess.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So,
I mean, sort of, because I mean, we don't want to just throw up multiplexes and have a lot of crime, and we want young families here, definitely. But let's give the young families a chance, but I don't think necessarily apartment complexes are that chance. So.
Okay. So, and I guess one of the, so you're talking about building a lot more homes as opposed to these multiplexes, quads, or whatever it ends up being. Even now, and perhaps the housing market shifts in some way, but my family, for instance, we just moved out of Caldwell. I mean, we sold our home for a price that no brand new family is ever going to be able to afford. And that's in Caldwell, right? I mean, in Boise and Meridian, all those other places, it's significantly worse. So if you do start building, those homes, even brand new homes are just really, really expensive to where, people who are maybe elderly can't afford them, and neither can the, new families or young families. And so, I mean, what do you, is there really a solution? And maybe people would say, well, wait a minute here. We need these big apartment complexes because that's the only way we can bring in housing that is cheap enough compared to we build this home that costs, $600,000.
Right. Yeah. And that's a valid concern. I just think that it's not the, this is not a popular decision, and not a lot of people agree with me, and that's okay. But I just think that bringing in the multiplexes brings a whole different dynamic to the city, and I'm not saying bad. I'm just saying when you get into, we have seen it. I mean, you can look at Boise as an example. A lot of their apartment complexes, they are in lower income areas, and they have lower income residents. And the idea that one of the mayoral candidates said on the forum was that it's a starting place. Well, I agree with him. It is a starting place. But how often do those people who are really just a starting place actually leave? after 6 months or a year, maybe even 2 years, depending on their situation, versus the ones who stay there generationally, if you will. Grandma's apartment, and then mom's there, and and then you've got, it just there is more of the, I don't know the word for it. I guess there's more of the crowd that stays long term than there is the short term. That the other mayoral candidate did say, it was like, oh well, nope, everybody just lives in an apartment one time or another. I had to disagree with him on the farm on that, because I've never lived in an apartment. But I have lived in shady places where I have found places that are cheap to live and not the safest. So, and I know that's not reality for everyone, but it just was not an option for me to live in an apartment, just because of where I probably would have had to live in an apartment probably was not as even better than where I was living in the shady place, right? So, so it's not popular. It's not a popular idea, but I would say that just the multiplex, people can get started in renting small homes too. And Caldwell does have a lot of small homes to rent. Again, they're not in the greatest areas, but that's why we need to work on with our city council to really focus on those lower income areas, to really just revamp it up. Start writing letters to the homeowners, and just say, start cleaning it up. Or I'm not about government in people's lives, but if it's going to affect our city in a negative way, then we need to address that. I don't want to say let's start fining, let's start doing this, but something has to get done where some of these landlords who are not great landlords start actually either making their tenants clean it up or they clean it up. And I think sometimes when you just clean up the area, it's not so shady anymore. I use that word very loosely, just because I have, for a lack of a better term right now. No. So I don't want to judge anyone, but I have seen some places, and it's just not where we want Caldwell to be.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So outside of the housing issue and the law enforcement issue, are there some other issues that you've been talking about on the campaign trail that you want to bring to Caldwell?
So my three things have really been the growth, the funding, the fire, and the police, also staffing them, and then the community. We do have a great community here in Caldwell. I think we, quite honestly, probably live in the best community in the Treasure Valley. When they say, the Treasure Valley, Caldwell really is the gem. It's been the hidden gem for a long, long time. And now that gem's starting to shine, we need to keep it polished. We need to make sure that it's just protected, because everybody wants that gem, but we don't want anybody to take that gem. So we want to make sure that it's protected, and we just want to really just make sure that our kids, we have great kids here. We have talented kids, and not just sports, playing sports. We have dancers, we have drawers, we have builders. My 13-year-old, he could build Legos like you don't know. And I remember him and his dad, a lot of nights, had sat at the kitchen table building thousands of pieces of Legos. And then technology, our oldest son, he is into Legos, into technology. And gaming and that kind of stuff. So, we need to have stuff that's hip, that's cool, that's going to keep the kids engaged, but also on the broader scale, do the same for the seniors. What are they like? If you haven't been down to the senior center, it needs work. It's small. They're outgrowing it, in my opinion. The sidewalks come up. It's a tripping hazard because of the tree roots. Just there's things that need to be addressed. And I think that, again, it's the same principle. You keep it hip, you keep it cool to what they like, and accommodate to what they are. Then we would have more senior involvement, more community involvement surrounding these seniors. And I think really if we take care of the kids and we take care of the seniors and we just create the community family atmosphere, everything in the middle will eventually start to come back around to where, hey, we are one big family in this city. And as you know, with families, everyone has a problem child here and there, but we just have to deal with it and we have to be positive about it. I think we have to stand firm on our faith and our foundations that the city, that we can keep the city going in the right direction. We don't want to really rely on anything else, to be honest with you, to really capitalize on how great our city is. It's just when it comes down to what foundations have we built, where do we want to go, how are we going to get there, and the long-term plans, because the short-term plans for anything you look at, it doesn't matter if it's growth, doesn't matter if it's funding emergency services, we have to look at a long-term plan. And if you don't, and actually emergency, like pandemics and stuff, emergency situations, we have to now, unfortunately, we live in a day and age where we have to actually plan for that too. We can't ever know what's exactly going to happen, but we need to have something that's in place that if something does happen, then we can go to that emergency plan. But it has to be long-term. I'm all about long-term planning. I'm all about long-term just involvement. So, just outside of those three things, it's really been the three main things.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So in this last portion, we kind of talked to people about controversies or other things that are happening, within the campaign. And then once we get through that, I'll have you, address the crowd or the citizens of Caldwell, and you can give your pitch. And
Perfect.
With the election next week.
Yeah.
So it's coming up very, very shortly. So one of the questions I think that some citizens might have is, like, first, who are you? And you haven't even ran for city council. You're not even a city council member like two of the other candidates. So why are you trying to be the mayor? Why don't you just go for the city council first? And then if you get on the city council, then you can try and run for mayor so we know more about you at that point. So what do you say to people who say that?
Sure. A lot of people ask me, I guess in the sense that you're asking me is, I don't have the experience. And what I say to them, my answer point blank is, well, as far as me and the other candidates, we're all in the same playing field as far as mayoral experience. None of us have held a mayoral position before. So if you look at it that way, then yes, we're on the same playing field. I know that John McGee has a degree from the College of Idaho in history, and that's his background. And Jerem Wagner has a degree in business from Arizona. I can't remember if it's Arizona State University or not. But he has his business degree. I have my degree from BSU in English with an emphasis in writing. And then, of course, Chris Tranquil has his military experience. So yes, we all have different experiences. We all have different walks in life, but we're all on the same playing field as far as holding the mayoral office. Now, John McGee and Jerem Wagner have political experience in the legislature. Right, wrong, or indifferent, they have experience there, but that is a lot different than being a mayor. So in my mind, we're on the same playing field as far as that. Just because I'm a mom and a wife and I've been in customer service for 25 years or admin assistant or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't make my experiences any less than theirs. So,
is there something that you think makes you uniquely qualified over the other four candidates that you're like, here's why I am the best candidate as opposed to these people with their experience?
I wouldn't say that there's anything really better, if per se. It's just that I look at things differently. I try to look at things with a common sense approach. I try to look at things from a concerned citizen, which we all are concerned citizens, right? Now, with John and Jerem being currently on the city council, if there's, and they're running, if everyone is having, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people I've talked to has a lot of problems with the way our city is going. Well, who's on the city council right now? Well, they are, and they're running for mayor. You're not going to get that change that you're looking for, per se, because they're already in important roles where, in my opinion, haven't made some of the best. There's been good decisions, but not some of the best decisions either. So I would just say, you just have to do your research. You have to look. You have to, make sure that who you're voting for is what you believe in, and really understand you're not going to agree 100% with each candidate. And one you might pick, you're not going to agree 100% with every view they have or how they're approaching things. And so I think that's important, just as to just look and see, do you want new or do you want a new old? Does that make sense? Keep complaining about the way things are going, and you've got this set of group, or make the change and you've got this set of candidates. So I don't want to divide, because I really do think that we're all equal in that way of, we've never held mayoral offices. So yeah, they have political experience, and that's great, but it isn't a mayoral office.
So I guess kind of leading into that, you talked about two of the candidates having political experience in the legislature. You have been a very outspoken critic of John McGee, Councilman McGee, and his past actions while he was in the Senate. And for those that don't know, he had resigned amid sexual assault allegations. He had a DUI, and he had a grand theft auto charge as well. You've been a very outspoken critic of his past. And so, as we kind of monitor the comments on social media, some of the people say, hey, look, that was all in the past. You need to forgive him and let him live his life. What's your response to that?
So I actually have, because the more I started hearing the name McGee, I started looking into things and started, things coming up with the billboard and stuff like that we have here in Caldwell. And I just really started looking and started making educated decisions on why I felt the way I felt about him. But at the end of the day, I can say whatever I can say whatever. I can be as critical of anyone, really. But at the end of the day, it's not really my trespass to forgive. It's his and his family's, and it's with God. But at the same time, you can always forgive someone for their past. Doesn't always mean that it's followed by forget. And talking with a lot of our community members in the last couple of weeks, that is the one thing that they have pressed hard is, we can forgive them, but we don't forget what happened. We don't forget. And that's been a very serious issue with a lot of constituents. And residents are like, he's so controversial. And other candidates have come out and said, not that I've heard of mayoral candidates, to be honest with you, but other candidates running for office have said he's not the face of Caldwell. Flat out have come out and said that. And, I actually have to agree. Caldwell is, if we can keep it, is still a very conservative city. And we have conservative values. And one of those values is honoring your family, honoring your oath to your family, your vow to your wife. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how people see it. And my opinion doesn't reflect maybe yours or someone else's, but that is how I see it. And, it really comes down to do your research and really believe what you're finding, or really just come to your own conclusions. But really my short answer to that is just, it's not my trespass, or it's not my transgression to forgive. It's really between him and God. And if he's really done that, then God will place him where he needs to be. and that ultimately it's between them, him and him. It's not even between him and his wife. The vow was between him and his wife, but the real vow is between him and God. So, and God should be the only one to judge him. So,
Okay.
but yes, I have been heavily critical as I've learned things. And I don't think he would sit down and talk to me if I had questions for him. Honestly, I just don't think he would.
Okay.
To get a full disclosure, like everything, blah, blah, blah. But, he's gone to church events. He's spoken at couples retreats and how him and Hannah have come to grips and this and that. And I respect him for that. And I really respect her for that, because that's got to be hard for her. But at the same time, it's just another story. And unfortunately, it's another headline for him. So.
Okay. All right. So the last thing that we do is to have you give your pitch to the citizens of Caldwell, and you can plug your website and social media and all that stuff, and we'll be done.
Okay. So I am Nicole Hyland. I'm running for mayor of Caldwell. I actually really am excited about this opportunity. It's been a whirlwind. I've learned a lot. I will say that I do feel like a little bit of an underdog. I didn't want to say this, but I think I'm just going to plug it, is I was the first, as I mentioned, to put my application for candidacy in. And the day I did that, the next day, my 13-year-old son was hit and killed here in Caldwell. And so I did not get the fresh running start that I really wanted. Like hit the ground, get endorsements, get all the stuff I needed to get my campaign, get my signs, get everything. I am totally late to the game in that retrospect. But one of the reasons I say we have a great community is because people I didn't even know came out of the woodwork to bring us meals, bring us, just comfort, cards, flowers, balloons, everything that, So we have a great community here. And I'm sorry that I didn't get off on, hit the ground running like I wanted to. But now that I feel like this is a good avenue to keep going forward, he would have told me, you can't quit, because I always told him, when life gets hard, you don't quit. And so life is hard, but I can't quit. I have to practice what I preach for my kids. So, and I know that him and my family are proud of me for just sticking with it. It's been rough on all of us, but we are just excited for the opportunity. My family and I are just excited for this opportunity. And really, I would be proud to be Caldwell's first female mayor. It really doesn't matter, but I just think that is what some people have said to me, so I'm going to address that. I never really looked at it that way, but they have brought that up, saying, hey, you should mention that, because that's pretty cool. So yeah, we've had 100 years or something and no female mayor. So I would be honored to be your first. And I will try to do the best. I am for the citizens, and I want to be of the people, for the people, by the people. So I want to have open office hours. Just open office to meet you guys. I want to come out. I want to go to have community events that are from the mayor's office, community events, and just really get out to meet you guys, the ones who elected me. And really just want to say that I love Caldwell, and I'm not going anywhere. We're not leaving. We love it here. So I only do have a Facebook page. It's Nicole Hyland for Caldwell on Facebook, and we've only got a couple days left. I think there's 7 or 6 days left before the election. So time's going fast, and so we're just we'll just see and just keep praying for the citizens of Caldwell, and just thank you everyone for your support thus far, and thank you to Greg for this interview, and really just thank you to Caldwell, and I can't wait to see what happens on November 2nd. So vote for Nicole Hyland for Caldwell.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.